anyway, let's get this started. I'm going to do it a little bit differently. I'm going to make you guys take notes first, and then we'll read at the end. Do you guys like that? I like to switch it up a little bit just because it's always different to do that. But considering the times that we're going through, I still feel like we're making a lot of daily progress because I just feel like we're starting to really develop that team environment. I saw we're putting a lot of these deals together, and I think we need to take on that approach. Like, let's be open-minded about, sometimes the customer is not going to be as comfortable with one person. You know, sometimes people, like, for example, the one that we have going on right now, I think we've made a beautiful combination of all of us closing the customer. Does that make any sense? And I think that's an environment that we want to create. So this is what I want you guys to write down today. These notes are notes that I have written for years and years and years. And when I speak to you guys about them, or for you guys to grow, like, I'm just planting a seed. You guys have to water it. But I want to start off by telling you guys that you guys need to think big. Like, thinking big is something that every top producer does. What do I mean by thinking big? Can somebody give me an example of what thinking big in real estate would be? Because I want you guys to interact. What's thinking big in real estate?
Like going after 150 transactions.
There you go. That's thinking big. Can somebody else tell me what thinking big is?
Be the top agent.
Being the top agent in your area. Those are the type of thoughts that you guys have to have daily. We've been learning in the book of Think and Grow Rich about auto suggestions, right? You guys are remembering the auto suggestions? Yes. Okay. I want you guys to practice those. Yesterday, I found myself in a situation where mentally I kept on thinking about something extremely negative. And then I told myself, why am I being so negative? If I've been learning to auto-suggest, let me switch it up. And I started to get onto my notepad and I started to write down my auto-suggestion. And I wrote down my auto-suggestion 50 times. Is that crazy? Yes, it is. Because does it feel like a punishment? Maybe. But I got to shut up my brain sometimes because I need to continue to think big. Here's an example. I want to close 150 units. Oh, but we have coronavirus pandemic. Does that make sense to you? You're thinking big, roadblock, auto suggestion is the pandemic does not matter. I am still a top producing agent. Does that make sense? Teresa's think big. I want to be the top agent in the area. But there's already 10 other people that have been in the industry for 35 plus years and they're the top agents. That's a roadblock. What's your auto suggestion? I will be the top listing agent. I will be the top agent in the area. No matter what, exactly. Does that make any sense to you guys? I'm just trying to give you some raw training because I need you to put it into practice. Write this down next to think big. Staying small is toxic. You're gonna learn that a lot of people in your center of influence are notorious for thinking very small, and since they think so small, they're toxic to you. My example, and by all means, I love her. My mother-in-law is great, but at the beginning, her thinking was like, no, why are you getting yourself into real estate? Your parents don't speak any English. Your parents don't know anything about real estate. Get yourself a 9-to-5 job. And in that 9-to-5 job, be happy with what you're gonna get. Maybe at a bank, you'll be a teller. Then you'll be a relationship manager for small business. Like, be happy with that. Does that make sense? How toxic that is? What would it be of me if I would have said, you know what? She's right. My parents don't know anything about real estate. Nobody in my family knows about real estate. Let me listen to her toxic way of thinking. Does that make sense? At the same time, I turn things around now and I'm like, thank you for being the motivating factor because I needed to prove you wrong, along with a bunch of other people. But what I'm saying is don't catch yourself being the toxic individual because you think that you can't be the top agent. If you think you can't, what's going to happen?
You're not going to be here.
You're not going to be here. So and I keep saying this, I've said this like 10 times this week, you're going to miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. Going to visit Mr. Escobar. That was a shot that I didn't have a guarantee that I was going to make. Now we're one step closer. Did I miss that shot? No. I would have missed it if I don't show up. I'm just giving you guys example. So staying small is very toxic. Have big goals. Guys, you guys want to have the bigger, better things in life. That ranch one day is going to be a 40-acre ranch. think very big. That BMW that you have, Teresa, one day is going to be the best of the BMWs. Abraham, that house is one day going to be converted into a big house.
25.
The $100,000 BMW. You want one too, Edward? You're waiting for it? You want to put you in? You've already seen it. Your house, you've been able to improve it. You know what I mean? Like after you're going to be closing deals and you're on a fast track, and I see that you want to win and you're going to get there. Does that make any sense to you guys? But think very, very big. Thinking small is out of the ordinary. For you, it's weird if you're not thinking big. If you're not sitting around your center of influence, which is your friends and family members, and you're not saying stuff that scares them and is scary, then you're in the wrong circle and you're saying the wrong things. I constantly talk about that house that I want to have in Miami next to the beach. Is it crazy? Maybe it is. Is it expensive? Maybe it is. But again, I'd rather take that shot and miss it than not take that shot at all and not give myself the opportunity to win. You want to do 2 solid escrows a month because it'll give you a nice $10,000 a month income, then think you could do 20 of those. And think really hard at it and write it down. And when you struggle with yourself and you're like, maybe I can't do 10 escrows, I can't even do half of one a month, then you get onto your auto suggestion game plan and you start to write it down. Because things are always going to develop for the people that write it down. So write this down next to it. Everyone is a potential client. Every single person is a potential client. The meeting that I just had right now at 7 a.m. with this individual was so beautiful. You want to know why? It was music to my ears. I didn't even know he was watching, but he's been watching the homes. He's been watching you guys, how good you guys train. He's been watching people online. He's been watching the agents that have been developing from the company. And he says, wow, how much can I pay you to give me some advice? And I'm thinking to myself, wow, I wrote this down such a long time ago that I would get paid for advice as a consultant. But the point is that I made a conscious decision that everybody was going to be a client. I didn't say I'm going to pick and choose. Obviously, I'm teaching you guys on how to attract the right clients, but I wrote this down for you guys. Everyone is a potential client. Finish it off with this so you guys can write it down. As long as they are qualified. Everyone is a client as long as they are qualified. If they're qualified, guess what? They're a client. If they're not qualified, guess what? They can eventually become a client. So don't count these people out, but structure yourself to follow up with the people that are not active clients right now. They're gonna yield you a good return. Abraham, you've been doing it long enough where now you could say that the people that you talked to 2.5 months ago should be followed up massively because a lot of those people told you in 3 months. David, how many times do you hear that they want to do something in 3 months? I think 80% of the time I hear you talking to people, you're saying, hey, remember you mentioned that you wanted to do this. And I'm like, man, that's just massive follow-up. Some of these people really, really take the time to structure themselves as to when they're going to make the next purchase. The home purchase is not one of those compulsive purchases where people are like, I'm going to buy a house, let's go do it right now. Oh, it takes months and months of research. Everybody is a client as long as they are qualified. So number 3, since you want to qualify great people, let's find great people. I would write that down as one of your affirmations. I will find great people. Let's find great people. So then let's go in 3 deep. What is a great customer to you, David?
Qualified, ready to work now.
Okay, qualified, ready to work. I would do that as an auto suggestion. How about you get more into the 700 FICO score? That's a great quality. 740. Now let's take it even further. Minimum purchase price of $550,000. And I'm not saying not to take the small deals. Trust me, I love the small deals, and so do you, because those are the ones that yield higher return on if you know how to handle them, right? But maybe at the representation level of a buyer where you're going to share the compensation with another agent, why not shoot for clients that are 750, 800,000? Auto suggestions. Another example, I want customers that have a 20% down payment. I said earlier, everybody's a potential client. So I'm not saying don't deal with 3.5%ers, 5%ers, 10%ers, whatever the down payment amount is. But you guys have to start to attract these customers with a larger amount of money. Why? Because it's a much easier transaction to deal with. The people with money, I know they're going to give you a hard time, but the people with money already know what they got to do to get what they want. They play, but at the same time, they know they're going to get that house. Versus the people with the small down payment is like, hey, by the way, the closing costs are not $8,000 or $12,000. Oh, we can't do it no more. We're going to have those $4,000. And you're like, really? Out of $4,000, you're buying a house and we're not going to close the escrow? The people that already have big down payments, they've already calculated the down payment and the closing cost. So that's why you guys need to make sure that you guys find great people. And this doesn't necessarily mean that the great people are the people with the big down payments and the good credit. I'm talking about personality-wise. You might have a 3.5% FHA that is very willing and ready, that is always going to work easier with you than a person that has 850 FICO score, $1 million in cash. So don't confuse that. I'm not saying that the great people are the people with all the money and the top credit. I'm just saying personality-wise, there's some people that you want to attract, and that's what I mean specifically by finding great people to work with. So here's the last one that I want to talk to you guys about. How many of you guys want to be average? Okay, good, because you know what? Average is a failing formula. I need you guys to make sure you guys know that. If you are considering yourself an average, you're gonna fail because you're not shooting up. You guys gotta make sure that you guys are not shooting up like drugs. Oh, man. I know, man.
Toxic.
Yeah, toxic, exactly. That's what it is. Make sure you guys are shooting for much more than average. I constantly think about that. The conversation that I had with the customer this morning, he says, Jesse, I have to build these 3 homes on these lots. And I said, okay, that's wonderful. He says, I'm really scared to build the homes. And I'm like, why? He says, have you seen the unemployment rate? Have you seen the forbearance agreements? Have you seen that 10% of the people that work for LA County, LA City are going to get laid off? And he's over here shooting me with a bunch of negative stuff. And I told him, you've made a very conscious decision that you don't want to do this anymore. That's what it sounds like to me. And I said, what about the need for housing? What about the fact that we still have a supply issue? I don't know if you guys are looking at that, but we still don't have enough homes on the market to really keep up with the demand during a pandemic. So does that make sense to you guys? You guys need to make sure that you guys are thinking above average. Why would you want to categorize yourself with the 90% of people that are really negative about what's happening in the real estate market or in the economy on its own? So I want you guys to really pay attention to these things because it's very important to your personal growth. Now, when it comes down to real estate talk, something that's happening right now is that they're starting to soften up the guidelines. I want you guys to be very aware of this. Did you guys pay attention to the economy during the time that the pandemic, that FHA was saying now people need to qualify at this specific rate? Your purchasing power was being completely robbed from you by about 10 to 15%. And I'll explain that really quick. So for example, if you qualified for 550, now you're only qualifying for 490. Does that make sense? Because those guidelines were put into effect so that people could make very smart, conscious decision that they shouldn't buy over their actual purchasing power. It's the way that the banks defend themselves in the lending world. That stuff is going to start to rapidly change. So when you guys are talking to customers about qualifications, I need you to take that into consideration. If you're calling a lead and they say, I already have a pre-approval, are those pre-COVID-19 numbers or are those after COVID-19 numbers? Those are things that should stand out. Teresa, how does it feel How does it feel when you can't close a deal because of some type of income issue? You feel bad. But you can do all of this by fully qualifying the client even after they've been qualified. I had a substantial amount of transactions that didn't go through, but it didn't matter because now I'm gonna call and I'm gonna follow up and I'm gonna tell them, hey, let's do some after COVID-19 research. Isn't it strange to you guys that all of a sudden all the people that are out there protesting and doing what they're doing are not, I don't even see any face masks. I'm like, not even the police officers, I'm like, man, nobody's carrying, everybody just has it going on. So I'm really wondering what really happened. It's not my job to make a decision, but at the same time, I want to make sure that I'm aware that that just means that people's confidence level are very high. What does that translate into? Consumer confidence into purchasing. Everything goes hand in hand with the real estate market. So you guys need to stay very, very alert to that stuff and make sure that you guys are making a conscious decision. All right, if you guys want to take notes, imagination, the workshop of the mind. I think this is chapter, what chapter is this for you guys, for you scholars?
6.
I can't see that far, bro.
Oh,
6.
6? Is that a 6?
Oh shit.
Is that a 6?
Yeah. Looks like a 6.
The imagination is literally the workshop wherein all fashioned, all plans created by man. The impulse, the desire is given shape, form, and action through the aid of imaginative faculty of the mind. It has been said that man can create anything which he can imagine. Through the aid of his imaginative faculty, man has discovered and harnessed more of nature's forces during the past 50 years than during the entire history of the human race. Previous to that time, he has conquered the air so completely that the birds are poor match for him in flying. He has analyzed and weighed the sun at a distance of millions of miles and has determined through the aid of imagination the elements of which it consists. He has increased the speed of locomotion until he may now travel at a speed of more than 600 miles an hour. Man's only limitation within reason lies in the development and use of your imagination. He has not yet reached the apex of the development in the use of his imaginative faculty. He has merely discovered that he is an imagination and has commenced to use it in a very elementary way. 2 forms of imagination. The imaginative faculty functions in 2 forms. One is known as synthetic imagination and the other as creative imagination. Synthetic imagination, through this faculty, one may arrange old concepts, ideas, or plans into new combination. This faculty creates nothing. It merely works with the material of experience, education, and observation with which it is fed. It is the faculty used most by the inventor, with the exception of the genius who draws upon the creative imagination when he cannot solve his problem through synthetic imagination. The other one is creative imagination. Through the faculty of creative imagination, the finite mind of man has direct communication with infinite intelligence. It is the faculty through which hunches and inspirations are received. It is by this faculty that all basic or new ideas are handed over to man. It is through this faculty that one individual may tune in or communicate with the subconscious minds of other men. That's interesting. The creative imagination works automatically in the manner described in the subsequent pages. This faculty functions only when the conscious mind is working at an exceedingly rapid rate, as for example, when the conscious mind is stimulated through the emotion of a strong desire. the creative faculty becomes more alert in proportion to its development through use. The great leaders of business, industry, finance, and great artists, musicians, poets, and writers became great because they developed the faculty of creative imagination. Both the synthetic and the creative faculties of imagination become more alert with use, just as any muscle or organ of the body develops through use. Desire is only thought and impulse. It is nebulous and ephemeral. It is abstract and of no value until it has been transformed into its physical counterpart, while the synthetic imagination is the one which will be used most frequently in the process of transforming the impulse of desire into money. You must keep in mind the fact that you may face circumstances and situations which demand use of creative imagination as well. Here's an exercise for you guys. If you guys want to take notes, give your imagination some exercise. Your imaginative faculty may have become weak through inaction. It can be revived and made alert through use. So cool. This faculty does not die, though it may become quiescent through lack of use. Center your attention for the time being on the development of synthetic imagination, because this is the faculty which you will use more often in the process of converting desire into money. I like every time they say money. I don't know why. Transformation of the intangible impulse of desire into the tangible reality of money calls for the use of a plan or plans. These plans must be formed with the aid of imagination and mainly with the synthetic faculty. Read the entire book through, then come back to this chapter and begin at once to put your imagination to work on the building of a plan or plans for the transformation of your desire into money. Detailed instructions for the building of plans have been given in almost every chapter. Carry out the instructions best suited to your needs. Reduce your plan to writing if you have not already done so. The moment you complete this, you will have definitely given concrete form to the intangible desire. Read the preceding sentence once more. Read it aloud. Very slowly as you do so, remember that the moment you reduce the statement of your desire and the plan for its realization to writing, you have actually taken the first of series of steps which will enable you to convert the thought into physical counterpart. Did that make sense to you guys or not? That's so weird that we're reading this, but this goes back, and I'm going to stop there because it's an exercise. It goes back to saying you need to put your thoughts into writing so that you can take a physical counterpart into the realization of the plan becomes what? Reality. Money. Reality, yeah, money. Sorry, I should have said reality. But does that make any sense to you guys? Absolutely. We have a plan and we're constantly doing it. I'm gonna wrap it up with that because I don't want you guys to be doing it. But look, this is the plan. There's no rocket science to it. I'm constantly putting stuff down in writing. You know why? Because it comes to 10:30 at night, 10 p.m. and I'm thinking to myself, like, I gotta do something with Long Beach. Long Beach is a good area. I write it down. Now the physical realization of a plan is gonna start to develop because I wrote it down. How do you think I feel when I go back and I'm like, what did I think about Long Beach? I thought about development. I thought about commercial real estate. What am I doing to take action? What happens if I don't write it down? I'm not gonna take action on it. Does that make any sense? I even, like, I'm like cars, YouTubers, finance. I even wrote down G-Wagon. I don't know why, but I want a G-Wagon, so I can be really Armenian with the guns. That's not a good joke. Not a good joke. Okay, anyway. So the point is that this chapter, we're learning that the physical realization of, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, the racist.
I know. That was bad.
I gave you the pass.
Yeah. Took a while though. I'm even blushing. Took you like 3 minutes to give me the pass. You're like, should I give it to him or not?
Had to consult our other.
Yeah, I know. So the whole point is that, guys, what else do I gotta tell you so you guys can realize that you guys gotta start putting stuff in writing. Even if you go into my notes on my computer, my notes are filled with just information that I'm constantly writing all the time. You guys need to make sure that you guys are converting your reality. And you know what? My daughter, she's all like, why do you write standards? Do you guys remember standards? She's like, why are you guys writing standards? Look what I was struggling with during this time. I'm like, I will be organized. I was struggling with organization. And all of a sudden the pandemic hit, and I'm thinking to myself, what better time to be at home and organize everything? So now I go into my closet and I'm like, boom, boom, everything is a specific process. Now I know that the drawers this is where the toothbrush is at. This is like organized. I wrote it down. I converted it into reality. Look at my other struggle here. I will follow up. I wrote it down 25 times because I know, and this is weird. I didn't even remember that this book talked about it, but these are the basic fundamentals. If you talk to anybody that's successful guy, they'll tell you, have you read Think and Grow Rich? And wouldn't you guys be able to say that you could defend yourself? Oh, I know a little bit. Like me, give me anything that I can use as a tool. And every time I'm thinking about that little kid that couldn't hear, that would wake up, that got 6 cents, and I'm over here thinking like, man, I am nowhere near in his position. I'm waking up and it's like, I'm in such a great environment, yet my mind always complains about stuff. What kind of mentality is that? Have you guys ever thought about that kid with those 6 cents and he doubled it? All of a sudden 6 cents was 12, 12 cents was 24, and you guys know the math after that. But the point is that the realization of what we're doing here, and I'm excited to finish up this book because I think every single one of us is going to be a better person. Look, today's Tuesday. Today's the day where people finally feel like they can put the gas on the pedal. Can I get you guys to commit to call as many people? Right now, I'm starting to see that some of you guys are calling more than others. If you feel like you need to call more, tell Catherine. Catherine will provide for you more data so that you could start interacting with customers. Abraham, I mentioned something that David has been doing, because David knows it all. I'm just kidding. But David's been following up with customers from 2 to 3 months ago. Teresa, do the exact same thing. Anybody that's watching online, do that exact same thing. These people are very, very conscious of their opening buying window. Yes.
Well, I said, Blanca, actually, I've been converting her for 2 months already. And finally, yesterday, I asked her, hey, how's your schedule? Let me know. Because we need to go see houses Thursday. We're going.
No way. That's a huge victory.
You know what I mean?
Those type of things. Those type of things are life-changing because they become so normal to you that all of a sudden it's like you're meeting people at properties all the time. And again, we are here to support each other as a team. If you have a hard time contacting somebody, I guess I was really thrown off. How did you schedule that appointment? How did you know we needed that appointment? Or you guys communicated?
Yeah.
Well, that was awesome because that was like
Teamwork.
Yeah, that was teamwork. So I'm like, we got to be able to do that. And sometimes, like I can't wait to the moment where you guys are so well trained that I can send you guys to appointments where it's like it's a done deal. You know what I mean? And I know we're getting there because we're starting to do a lot of business and things are just going to grow. But anyway, let's do our affirmation so we can get this party started. Abraham,